Hello friends, welcome to eStudent. So friends, in the previous video we have discussed the IIT JAM Biotechnology section A, and in this video we will be covering the section B and C of 2016. Okay, coming to our first question friends, this is the section B. The identify the autoimmune diseases among the following. Okay, so type 2 diabetes mellitus, type 1 diabetes mellitus, gestational diabetes and pernicious anemia. So friends, here we see in the diabetes 1, type 1 diabetes, we see that our pancreas is going to produce insulin, which is going to break down the glucose molecules. Okay, so and this insulin moves the glucose into the cells. Okay, after breaking this glucose is used by our cells. But what happens in the case of diabetes mellitus? In this, the pancreas are affected. These are the beta cells of the pancreas which produces insulin is actually um, uh, attacked by our own immune cells, and this is the reason why we are unable to produce any insulin, and there is no breakage of glucose, and therefore it cannot use, these glucose are not used by the cells, and there is an increased in level of glucose here. This is caused due to the immune cells destroying the cells of our liver. I'm sorry, pancreas. Okay, so type 1 diabetes mellitus is a correct option here, and pernicious anemia is also correct option here friends. So what happens in the case of pernicious anemia? So friends, there is a intrinsic factor which is produced by our the stomach cells. Okay, there is a pernicious gland present in our stomach, and that pernicious gland is going to produce intrinsic factor. So this intrinsic factor, you see, this is the kind of receptor we can say. So this intrinsic factor is responsible for binding the vitamin B12 and causing its absorption. So because this is its deficiency is caused due because our immune cells will destroy these intrinsic factors, and therefore there is deficiency in the absorption of vitamin B12, and this causes anemia in our body. Okay, so pernicious anemia is the correct option here. Coming to the next question, which of the following statements are true for cellulose? Okay, so first let us see the structure of cellulose. So friends, this is the structure of cellulose which are linked together by alpha glycosidic bonds. Okay, cellulose serves as a structural role. So friends, yes, this is the correct option. Cellulose plays a structural role in the plant cells. Okay, cellulose is a branched polysaccharide. No friends, cellulose is not a branched polysaccharide. It is a linear polysaccharide. Cellulose is a homopolysaccharide composed of alpha-1,4 linked D-glucose. No friends, this is not correct. They are actually linked together by beta 1 and 4 linkages. So this is 1 and this is 4. So they are linked by beta 1,4 glycosidic linkages. So D is the correct option here friends. Okay, so A and D are the correct option. Coming to the next question. Which of the following are not true for photosynthesis? Okay friends, so you see here the carbon dioxide which is gained from the atmosphere, it undergoes reduction and forms glucose. This is glucose, and the water which is used by plants is oxidized to form the oxygen molecule here. Okay, so carbon dioxide is undergoing reduction and water is going oxidation here. Okay, so reduction of carbon dioxide and water, no friends, we see here this both are not going reduction. Oxidation of carbon dioxide and water, no. Reduction of carbon dioxide and oxidation of water, yes. You see here carbon dioxide is undergoing reduction and water is going oxidation. So C is the correct option. Oxidation of carbon dioxide. No, we see there is a reduction. So this is a wrong option. So C is the correct option, friends. Now coming to the next question. Apoptosis is controlled process of cell death. The process involves. So friends, here we see whenever the cell wants to undergo the apoptosis, exposure of phosphatidylserine on the outer surface of the cell membrane. So friends, in the cell membrane, we have the two layers here, okay, outer membrane and the inner. This is the outer membrane and this is the inner membrane. So friends, what happens, there are phosphatidylserine, you see in the pink color, the phosphatidylserine is present in the inner membrane. So whenever the cell decides that it has to undergo the apoptosis, this phosphatidylserine is transferred to the outer membrane. Okay, now this cell when transferred to the outer membrane, phosphatidylserine, now this cell can undergo apoptosis. Okay. So A is the correct option, friends. Decreased permeability of outer membrane, outer mitochondrial membrane. So no, friends, there is no decreased permeability of outer mitochondrial membrane. Either it is making the increased permeability of outer mitochondrial membrane. So this is a wrong option. Increased lysosomal activity. No, friends, there is no increased lysosomal activity in the apoptosis process. Only the mitochondria is usually involved. In internucleosomal cleavage of genomic DNA. So friends, yes, the genomic DNA, you see this is a normal DNA, but in the case of apoptosis, usually this is cleaved. The DNA fragments is usually cleaved, okay, in the internucleosomal cleavage of genomic DNA. So D is the correct option here, friends. Coming to the next question. Okay, so friends, now just now we have completed the section B and now we will be discussing the section C, which are usually the numerical answer type questions. Okay. So coming to the first question, the net charge on the following peptide at pH 7 is. So friends, we know some amino acids are positive, some amino acids are negative. Okay. So friends, here we know that there is a presence of a carboxyl group here, and here there is a presence of NH3 amino group. Okay. So friends, at pH 7, we know that it will be having it will be having +1 charge, and this is going to have -1 charge at pH 7. Okay, this is a question from amino acid. From these are the things that at what pH the amino acid will having what charge. These things we have to remember. We have to remember the charts. Okay, so and we know that aspartate is a amino acid. Aspartate is a amino acid which is having the negative charge at pH 7. So, and lysine is having the +1 charge at the pH 7. So, friends, here +1 and -1, +1 and -1. So, at the pH 7, what is the total charge they are asking? Okay, friends. So, we see here that the here we will be having +1 -1, this gets cancelled and this gets cancelled. So the net charge is going to be the 0. So coming to the next question, friends, the at 152 nanometer, a 152 nanometer long Watson Crick double helical DNA, bDNA will contain dash turns. Okay, so friends, bDNA, we have to know some statistics here. So in one turn of DNA, okay, in one turn of DNA, we have to know. First, we'll know the statistics about the one, turn of the bDNA. So this is the DNA, suppose. So this is the one turn. We have to know what happens in the one turn. Okay. Usually in one turn of DNA, we will be having 10.5 base pairs. Okay, 10.5 base pairs. So friends, the distance between the two base pairs, this is one base pair and this is second base pair. So distance between those two base pairs in bDNA is 10.0. I'm sorry, it is It is 0.34, the distance between two base pairs. So friends, in 10.5 base pairs and distance between one base pair is 0.34. So in one turn, how many nanometer distance it is having? So 10.5 into 0.34, which is going to give approximately 3.54 nanometer. Okay friends. Oh, where did my question go? Okay. I'm so sorry for that, friends. Yeah. So it is going to have 3.54 nanometer in one turn of the bDNA. So friends, they are saying that a 152 nanometer long. So we will be dividing that 152 nanometer divided by one turn, that is 3.54, which is approximately going to give us 42.57. Okay, so this DNA, which is 152 nanometer long, is going to contain 42.57 tons. Okay, hope you have understood, friends. Coming to the next question. A population is in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium for a gene with only two alleles, capital A and small a. If the gene frequency, so this is having capital A and small a. If a gene frequency of capital A is 0.7, the genotype frequency of heterozygous capital A small a is. Okay friends, so they have given there is a allele capital A and small a. So friends, they have given the 0.7 is a frequency of capital A. So friends, we know the formula P plus Q is equal to 1. Okay, so suppose this capital A is P and this Q is small a. Okay, so here the frequency of capital A, that is P, is 0.7 plus Q is equal to 1. Okay, so Q is going to be 1 minus 0.7, which is equal to 0.3. So the frequency of small a is 0.3. Now friends, they are asking the genotype frequency of heterozygous capital A and small a. These are the individual frequencies, friends. So we have to calculate the heterozygous frequency. Okay, for this we have a formula P square plus 2PQ plus Q square. Okay, where this is a frequency of P, this is a frequency of 2PQ. This is a frequency of heterozygous, this is a homozygous, and this is another homozygous, that is Q. Recessive allele, this is a dominant allele. So for heterozygous, we have a formula 2PQ. So 2 into the individual frequency of P is 0.7 into the individual frequency of Q is 0.3. So friends, if we calculate all of this, we will be getting the value of 0.42. So the frequency of heterozygous capital A small a is 0.42. Okay friends, hope you have understood. Coming to the next question. The following polypeptide chain was sequentially treated with dithiotritol, cyanogen bromide and trypsin. Okay friends, so we know that dithiotritol is not involved in cleavage. It is actually involved in forming the disulfide bonds in the polypeptide. So here dithiotritol is not involved. Cyanogen bromide and trypsin. So friends, cyanogen bromide, it cleaves the polypeptide where there is a methionine. Okay, and friends, they have given trypsin. So friends, trypsin will cleave the polypeptide where there is a presence of lysine and arginine. Okay, so first we will see the cleavage by cyanogen bromide. So wherever there is a methionine, we are going to cleave it there. So there is a methionine here, and then next there is a methionine here. That's all. We have two methionines here, and now we will be cleaving it using the trypsin. So where is it is cleaving at lysine and arginine. So where there is one lysine here, there is alanine, uh, there is one arginine here. So we are going to cleave at these positions. So friends, how many fragments we are getting? The total number of fragments expected at the end of the complete digestion of the polypeptide are. So this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is 5. So we are getting 5 fragments. Okay friends, hope this is clear to you. So let me write it clearly, 5. Yeah. Coming to the next question. In a maize, the gene is colored seed and round seed. This is a dominant over the genes of a colored seed and shrunken seeds. Okay, so these are the recessive traits. Pure breeding strains of the double dominant variety were crossed with the double recessive variety. Okay, and a test of cross of FN generation produce the following. So friends, these are the phenotypes given and these are the number of seeds which are produced. So we see here friends, this is like we have to apply a logic that here wherever there is a high number of seeds, there are always parents and the less numbers are always recombinants. Okay friends, now we see that now they are asking for the above, the distance between the genes for the seed's color and the seed shape on the chromosome would be. So friends, they're basically asking for the recombinant frequency. Okay, in the centimorgan units. So friends, we have to know the formula of recombinant frequency is equals to number of recombinants divided by total into 100. Okay, so friends, the number of recombinants, that is 24 divided by total 380. This is 24 plus 380 plus 396 is going to give us 800. So divided by 800 into 100. So 0 0 0 0 gets cancelled. 1's 8 3's. So 3 centimorgan units is the recombinant frequency of these genes. Okay friends, of these traits. Hope you have understood friends. Coming to the next question. A culture of 10 to the power 6 bacteria with doubling time of 6 minutes is grown in a nutrient medium at 37 degrees Celsius. Considering that the nutrients are unlimited, the number of bacteria at the end of the 10 hours would be. Okay friends, so doubling time is 6 minutes friends. So this 60 minutes, that means 1 hour. So in 1 hour, it is producing 1 generation. Okay, so in 1 hour, it is producing 1 generation. And in 10 hours, it is going to produce 10 generation. It is given 10 hours, so 10 generation. Okay friends, now we know the formula that NT is equals to N naught into 2 to the power N. So friends, here NT is the population after time. Population after time t. Okay, and here N naught is the initial population. And N is equal to the number of generation. So friends, here we see in 1 hour it is giving 1 generation. So in 10 hours it is going to give 10 generation. So the value of N is 10 here, which is equal to 10. And the initial concentration, which is already given, is 10 to the power 6 is equals to 10 to the power 6. So we have to form the population after time. So NT is equals to 10 to the power 6 into 2 to the power 10. Okay friends, so nt is equals to 10 to the power 6 into, so 2 to the power 10, the value is going to be 1024. So the nt is equals to 1024 into 10 to the power 6. 1024 into 10 to the power 6. Okay friends, hope you have understood. Coming to the next question. A 50 amino acid residue stretch of globular protein adopts an extended structure containing true alpha helix, that is 24 residues, and beta strand of 26 residues. Okay, so alpha helix is giving 24 residues and beta strand is having 26 residues. Okay friends, the total length of stretch will be, okay, so friend, in the alpha helix we know that the distance between the two amino acids is 1.5 angstrom. Okay, and in the beta strand we know the distance between two amino acids is 3.5 angstrom. Okay, so friend, they are asking in nanometers, so we have to convert it into nanometer, which after converting we'll be having 0.15 nanometer, and this we will be having 0.35 nanometer. Okay, this is for alpha helix and this is for beta helix. So friends, here they have given 24 residues. So this is alpha helix, 0.15 nanometer into 24 residues, which will be equal to something, and beta strand, the distance between two amino acids here is 0.35 nanometer into 26 residues here. Okay, now for alpha helix the length is going to be 3.6. if you multiply this we will be getting 3.6, and for beta strand we will be getting 9.1. So now they are asking the total length of the stretch will be in nanometers. So if they are asking total, we have to add this both. We will be getting 6 and 7, 12, 12.7 nanometer. Let me write it clearly, 12.7.